Bhagwan Shri Yogi Ramsuratkumar ki Sarvam Yogi Ramsuratkumar Arpanamastu. How can we ever thank Bhagwan sufficiently for these opportunities? We are able to sing His powerful name together despite the space and time, the difference. The technology is helping if we know how to put it to right use. We have to thank Bhagwan for this technology and also the grace to be able to sing this wonderful Nama without finding any excuses not to sing. Now today again we will go back in time unto Sannidhi Street. It was again very late 70s, probably the end of 79. And you could see Swami seated there in Sannidhi Street House with Agaram Jayaraman, who has recorded. We owe a deep debt of gratitude to Agaram Jayaraman. There have been people who have served Bhagwan in different periods, but very few have maintained a diary. It is a great treasure that Agaram Jayaraman has given us. And we could never thank him adequately. And along with Bhagwan and Agaram Jayaraman, we now see one more person seated there. Let's call him KM. There's no need to know the identity. Now this visitor was saying, Bhagwan was asking him what he had done and what he was doing then. KM went on to say that he had just finished his B.Ed, he had done his B.Sc and B.Ed. He had applied for a teacher's post and written some examinations or something, and still in his batch 50,000 people were yet to get employed. He said it might take another 4 years before they found employment, and in those 4 years there'll be more, thousands of people accumulating, waiting for a teacher's post. He was complaining. Then Bhagwan said, why don't you do something else? You are a fully qualified teacher. You could invite some weak students to your place and teach them. You could still be a teacher in your own house teaching some weak students and earn some money. And to this KM said, no, I don't like all that. I would rather be a teacher in a school. Bhagwan kept quiet. But it's a very good blessing from Bhagwan that people who are well qualified for teachership and are unable to find a post, Bhagwan has blessed. When something came out of Bhagwan's mouth, it carried his blessings. Bhagwan had often said, if this beggar blesses somebody in one situation, this blessing would go to all those people in similar situations. Whatever Father does can never be small. He does it on a big scale, he said. But anyway, when this man denied, Bhagwan kept quiet. And then he opened another topic. He said, KM, I came to know some time back there was something between you and your aunt. There was some quarrel, that you had hurt her feelings. You tell me all about it. And Bhagwan himself volunteered a little more information. Your aunt was feeding all the sadhus, beggars and sanyasis here, and she was doing it so well. But then you quarreled with her. You hurt her. To this KM replied, yes, Swami, only last time it happened, just 1 year back, when she was feeding, when she had cooked food for all those beggars, sadhus and sannyasis. I had taken some coolies from the nearby village. I wanted food for them. So I told my aunt, look, why are you feeding these idlers? They're not doing any work. They're just spending their time whiling away and begging food. Instead, these people are working very hard. Why don't you feed them? And then I took away all the food in order to feed these coolies. And she was very hurt. She was angry with me and she was very hurt. I still think that I have done the right thing. I feel that one should stop feeding these beggars, sadhus and sannyasis, the so-called beggars, sadhus and sannyasis. Swami's face turned red. He said, oh, so you hurt her. She was doing some good work and you quarreled and hurt her. Okay, you tell me this. Who gave the property to your father? Then KM replied, my aunt's husband, my uncle. It is he who gave his property to my father, and he put this condition that some of this property must be spent in feeding the sadhus and sannyasis and beggars, and some of it must be spent on pujas, on temple worships. Then Bhagwan asked him sharply, are you people doing that? Then KM said, Swami, he did not leave any will. He did not write anything. Whatever message was passed on, it was by mouth. It was oral. And we are 13, the next generation. And we don't want to do all these things. It's all a waste, Swami, feeding these beggars and sadhus. They are all idlers. It's a waste to feed them. Bhagwan got angry, though of course he contained his anger. He said a little sharply, so even the will written, the written will carries no respect. People don't respect even the written will, and there is no respect at all to any word, a promise made by word of mouth. How can you do this? Your uncle gave that property to your father, trusting that he would do this. No, Swamiji, it's all a waste. And then again Bhagwan got angry, and then he was telling Jairama, you see Jairama, what he says? How can you say feeding a sadhu, sannyasi, beggar is waste? Right from the Vedic period, it has been our spiritual heritage, it's part of our spiritual culture to feed sadhus and sannyasis, to support them. And they in turn would bless the people. How can you say it's a waste? And how can you say it's a waste to spend money on pujas, homas, worship of gods and goddesses? Only when they are propitiated, they will give rain. The seasons would not change. The seasons would not fail us. The gods should be propitiated in the Vedic ways. It is not a waste. And then he gave the example of Paramacharya's answer. Once Sri Paramacharya conducted Athirudra Yajna, and much ghee was poured into the fire of the sacrificial fire, and there was heavy criticism. There were some people who said this money could be spent upon feeding these poor people. Why would they waste money like this? And then Paramacharya said to those people, how can you say it is a waste? Suppose the paddy rice, after preparing the soil very well, you throw the rice, paddy, you sprinkle them in the field with the hope that they would grow and give you back the paddy many times, many-fold, that you would have a good harvest. So those paddy rice, how can you say it's a waste? Planting them, planting the seeds, hoping for a good harvest. Would you tell them, why are you wasting this? Why are you wasting so much rice? You could feed the poor people instead. When Paramacharya asked like this, those people could not say anything. And then Bhagwan went on to add, it is very difficult to prove scientifically that this worship by Homa, Yajna, will bear fruit, will bear enormous fruit. The gods and goddesses would be propitiated, they would be so pleased, and the seasons would not fail. They'll give rain in time. Immediately this came, said, what Swamiji, what rain? These days we can produce artificial rain. Then Bhagwan again got angry and he said, oh, don't we know all about that? What did they do in Chennai, in Madras? They tried this artificial rain, but did it rain in the place they wanted? It moved away. It would not give us rain when we wanted and where we wanted. These things could easily fail, and it won't be like the natural rain. Since this beggar cannot prove scientifically the truth of his statement, you people say like this, but please know that the yajnas, homas, worship of gods and goddesses with rituals is a must, not a waste. Bhagwan declared it. Bhagwan's very words are there. Agaram Jayaraman has written all this, the first-hand information. This Vedic worship is a must, not a waste. And then he went on to say, Mr. Einstein, one of the greatest scientists of the world, he was responsible for the atom bomb. And he got Nobel Prize. He was the author of the theory of relativity. Now such a scientist, a very powerful scientist, he was a Jew by birth. He was born in Germany, but went over to States. Bhagwan was giving this information, but he went over to States and plunged deep into research. And it's because of that the atom bomb came. But he had such God faith. He had devotion to God. He had God faith. And then Bhagwan went on to describe how he met with Sir C.V.Raman. Sir C.V.Raman, Nobel Prize winner, he got this Nobel Prize in 1930 for Sri Raman effect. So Bhagwan, until he was enlightened, until he had this final fulfillment, he was wandering here and there. And when he came to know that C.V.Raman was staying in Bangalore, out of curiosity, he wanted to know how the scientist could get Nobel Prize and whether he had got faith or not. So he went all the way to Bangalore. He went to Indian Institute of Science and then found out that Sir C.V.Raman had already left for home. So immediately he inquired and reached Sir C.V.Raman's house, Panchavati, only to find the door locked. And they said he had gone to take rest to Sringeri. He had a residence there and he had gone there. For Swami said in those days this beggar's dress was even more torn. It was 100 times more dirty and torn. There were so many tears in the shirt of this beggar, in the dhoti of this beggar, and this beggar had somehow managed to stitch them. But they were still very, very dirty. So this dirty sinner went all the way to Sringeri. He was very determined to meet Sir C.V.Raman and to know what he felt about God. It happened to be a Sunday because it took some time for this beggar to collect money and to go to Sringeri. By the time he reached, it was a Sunday, and people said that he would not meet anybody on Sunday. But then this beggar pushed ahead. He went and met Dr. C.V.Raman's wife. By Father's grace, C.V.Raman's wife was receptive. What was more, she understood this beggar to be a great sadhu, a jnani, a sage. Bhagwan used the word sage. She understood this beggar was a sage And then she said, he doesn't see anybody on a Sunday, but you are an exception. He would definitely meet a sage like you. He would not want to miss. So when he has gone out for a walk, when he comes back, I would tell him, please wait. And what was more, she treated him with great respect and then gave him some food also. Some food, tea and everything. And then she requested him to wait. So Bhagwan did not want to stay in the house, he just moved out into the garden. And there was a bench there in the garden, a stone bench. And he lay down there. He waited and waited. Maybe 3 hours passed because C.V.Raman had come back home, and his wife did tell him that Swami was waiting, a sadhu, a sage was waiting for him. And he said he would meet, but after food he forgot. He forgot all about it, he was tired, he went straight to bed to take rest. When he woke up, suddenly he remembered that he was waiting, the sage was waiting for him, and he rushed out to the place where Bhagwan was sitting. And Bhagwan says, C.V.Raman came running to him with 1,000 apologies for making him wait. He said, my wife did tell me, I don't know how I forgot. After food I was tired, I went to bed. Please forgive me. And then he had a chair brought, and C.V.Raman treated him with great respect. And Bhagwan says, this beggar put some very dirty, see the dirty beggar, put some very dirty questions to him. But he answered every question politely and patiently and with respect. And then this beggar found out that he had great love for God and he had faith in God. This beggar does not want India to become like Western countries. That even the greatest scientists of India must be rooted in the soil of God. They must have God faith. They must have devotion to God. They should not give up the traditional worship of God. So this beggar went all the way to meet Sir C.V.Raman to know whether he had faith in God and how he was doing. This beggar was satisfied. So indirectly, Bhagwan was saying, even such great scientists like Einstein and C.V.Raman, they worship God, their traditional. So Einstein was a Jew. So they worship God in their traditional ways and they have got faith. And you people are saying that it's a waste to feed sadhus and sanyasis and beggars. It's a waste to do ritual worship in temples. And then again he declared our traditional worship, which has been coming down from the Vedic period, it's a must, not a waste. Worshipping gods and goddesses with rituals, it propitiates them and they help us to live. They help us to make this life on earth livable. So this is a very rare glimpse of Bhagwan. That we get from Agaram Jayaraman. Of course, Bhagwan did tell me about Sir C.V.Raman because I was closely connected with physics at one time, Raman effect and all that. So he told me, and one or two questions that he asked was, like whether he believed when he did those experiments. Did he believe he had the support of the grace of God? To which C.V.Raman said, yes, of course. I worshipped, I prayed. At the same time, I proceeded very scientifically about these experiments. So this devotion, worship, this knowledge of God, they are great treasures of India. And one day, very soon, India would lead. India would be the spiritual teacher of the whole world. India's voice would be heard in the international platform. All the great masters, India is the land of great masters. India would flourish in every field and would show the path to the entire world. The day would come. So we see Bhagwan's faith in our traditional worship, the Vedic worship, and how it's been carried on over ages, especially feeding the beggars, sadhus and sanyasis. In fact, in the ashram, it is Bhagwan who started sadhu bhojan and annadana. And then he said to us, when you feed the sadhus, there will be sadhus coming from the north, going to the end of the south, and there will be some sadhus going from the tip of the south to the Himalayas. The sadhus will be traveling all the time. And you feed them. It's only when you feed the sadhus, when they are satisfied, when they are filled to satisfaction, when they are happy, they would bless the ashram, and the ashram would grow, he said. Sadhu bhojan is a must. It's only when they bless the ashram food, ashram would grow. Now this Bhagwan is here right in front of us. In those days, 3 days, 4 days, he would not get even a single cup of tea. People were not prepared to give him food or shelter. And he was all the time working for the welfare of the world, which he called Father's heavy work. Now this Bhagwan is feeding us now. Of course, except during this corona period, some 300 to 400 people eating every day the ashram, the prasad, and sadhus. Bhagwan said up to 40 sadhus could be fed. And the rest of them will be taken care of by Arunachaleshwara. Now this Bhagwan is right in front of us in all his glory of power and grace. To him we shall appeal. We submit our prayers of today